Hello and welcome all to the course. I congratulate you on taking this course and I'm really excited to have you here. This is section 1, Introduction and Positioning. In this, we understand the problems the companies are facing today and how HANA is going to solve these problems. We're also going to see what HANA is and what are the different aspects which puts HANA apart from a traditional database. To end with this section, we also will see some deployment options and you have study material and exercises to follow up. So the problem is very clearly the massive amounts of data which is being generated today. Companies have to deal with this amount of data to be successful, to be able to understand this data and to be able to make sense of this data and to be able to make decisions on this data. According to me, there are three reasons for this massive amount of data which we have today. Number one is the consumerization of IT itself by enabling the processes to use IT. So the people in the company and different processes are generating a lot of information which has to be stored and used. This is a good thing, but a lot of it is becoming a problem. The second, social data from customers, data from consumers, data from partner companies, and different forms of data coming and pouring into data warehouse. And the third point is the Internet of Things, which is a new paradigm today. Well, it has been existing for a long time, but not in this scale. So all these three different aspects are leading to a lot of data, and fortunately or unfortunately, businesses have to be able to make sense of this data to be successful. One of the management surveys, they discovered that companies are having more data than they can actually effectively use. So this is a massive problem which companies are facing today. To understand what is the amount of data we are talking about, so terabyte is something which we are comfortable with, at least for now, and soon we are going to be talking about petabyte and then exabyte and zettabyte. So just to give you an example, zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes, and IDC estimates that we must already have 4 zettabytes of data, and by 2020 we're going to be having 40 zettabytes of data. So that's almost double the amount of data in just 10 years from 2010 to 2020. So this is just a beginning of the problem, and we're going to be having a lot of these issues going forward. To look at these problems in the context of a company and in the context of certain processes will give us a better understanding. For example, let's take a look at data analysis. Let's say that a company has a board meeting with all the C-level executives, and they want to be able to intuitively analyze certain reports and to be able to understand how they can discover selling opportunities. If it takes 45 minutes, it's not going to help because board meetings are of a certain time, and also the mind does not work that way. For example, if you have one idea and you get an answer for that idea, so from that answer you get another idea. So it's kind of a sequential process your brain needs to go through in order to discover something interesting. Let's take a look at the second example, which is when a salesperson is at a customer site and she has to understand about the customer to be able to give a best quote and to give more discounts or not to give discounts. Now, if this takes 77 minutes, then she won't be able to do that because in a meeting probably I don't think it lasts 77 minutes, and therefore she may have to take a best guess in most cases. Another serious problem is when we talk about the DNA analysis. So for example, God forbid, a patient walks in with a cancer and she's discovered with cancer, then after the preliminary tests, it takes the doctors about 2 to 3 days just to understand what kind of cancer she has and what are the best possible medicines and best possible treatment which can be given to the patient. So these are problems which we have today as we speak, and they need to be addressed. Coming down to how it matters to the organizations, it translates to the inability to see what is happening in real time. which leads to a lot of other problems. Now, today, the companies need to be able to take actions on decisions and decisions on actions. Now, this is not possible if you are making decisions on old data. So, your actions are going to be based on old decisions, and hence, you will not be competitive and you will not be able to survive in today's market. Traditionally, we have a lot of copies and silos of data. For example, you have your transactional system, then you have a copy for the ETL, and then you have a copy for analysis, and then you have a copy for a data warehouse. You need multiple copies of data catering to multiple audience, which leads to creating different landscapes and tools, and not to forget the maintenance. Now, if you see this in the context of the big data, what we are trying to solve, then these problems kind of enlarge those problems. Now, that is just a part of the problem. Let's take a look at a new kind of a problem which we were aware of, but which we were not quite sure how it was impacting us. Now, this is called the unstructured information. For example, let's say a company produces medical equipment and it sells to hospitals, to doctors. In the process, let's say we have a sales process, and then we have a customer interaction, and then your engineer goes and installs the actual product, or she discovers certain kind of problems and defects, which they generally log into some kind of a system. Now, later on, the product is used by a doctor, which the doctor then goes and comments on the performance of the product and certain defects and so on. So all this information is kind of kept in an unstructured format. So when we say unstructured, we don't have a table, when you don't have columns and rows. That's what is unstructured. Then what is it? Then we are looking at files and documents and PowerPoints and contracts, all different kinds of media, for example, videos. So all these become a part of unstructured information. So not to forget the information coming from social media, which is very critical for organizations today to survive. We also get information from here. Now, surprisingly, 80% of the information in an organization is unstructured. It's not structured. It's without any structure. And 80% of the time the organization spends on the 20% of structured data. So that seems to be a kind of a problem, and that is where we need to be addressed. The companies need to focus on the 80% of unstructured information where there are gold mines of insights which the companies can use efficiently to perform better and to stay ahead of the game. That is a snapshot of the problems which we are trying to solve. In the next section, we are going to talk about what is HANA,